My mom runs the HOA, you can't touch me. Those were the first words out of the burglar's mouth when I caught him in my bedroom at 2 a.m. Not an apology, not panic, just pure arrogance. This 19-year-old kid genuinely believed his mother's position gave him immunity from consequences, and the wildest part, when the police showed up, he got even cockier, promising they'd apologize once his mom explained everything. That's the moment I realized this wasn't some garden variety break-in. No, something much darker was crawling through the cracks in my supposedly safe suburban life, and I was about to see just how far people will go to protect their warped idea of community service. Ever met somebody so entitled you had to double-check you weren't being pranked? Where reality goes so sideways, your brain just hits pause trying to process the madness? Well, buckle up, because the Tuesday night that turned my boring existence into a Stephen King fever dream started pretty ordinary. I was in my living room finishing up some late emails when I heard a noise upstairs, not the house settling, not a creak, but the sound of someone rifling through my stuff. My wife Emma was pulling a night shift at the hospital, so it was just me, a mug of lukewarm coffee, and apparently an intruder. I grabbed the heaviest flashlight I could find and crept up the stairs, heart pounding, telling myself this is how I'd end up on a Dateline episode, Death by Burglar in pajamas with little tacos on them. When I reached my bedroom and peeked in, the scene was so weird I nearly laughed. There's this tall, scrawny kid, maybe 19, calmly pulling open my drawers, examining my laptop, my tablet like he's comparing prices at Target. No rush, no fear, just total entitlement. So I raise my flashlight ready for him to panic or run nothing. He just stands up, looks me dead in the eye, and I swear starts giving me a speech. This equipment should belong to people who contribute to community development. My mom manages community resource allocation here. I'm standing there thinking, is this kid lecturing me about socialism while robbing me blind? He keeps going. Mom says people like you accumulate resources while community needs go unmet. Individual jobs serve personal interests, but community enhancement serves everyone. I honestly didn't know whether to laugh or call an exorcist. So I say, kid, that's my work laptop. I need it to pay my bills. He gives me this peaceful little smile like a yoga instructor about to lead a deep breathing exercise and goes, individual jobs serve personal interests. Community enhancement serves everyone. Mom will explain the program. I'm just standing there in my own house phone in one hand, flashlight in the other, listening to a thief explain how robbing me is for the common good. And he meant it. His name was Brandon, and he had this unnerving way of talking like he was reading from some top-secret manual. No fear, no guilt, just clinical calm, like he was distributing canned goods at a food drive, not committing a felony. When I demanded to know how stealing my property qualified as community service, he just nodded like I was the one not getting it. Resources should flow to where they're most needed, he said, sliding my laptop into a canvas shopping bag, not a pillowcase, which I gotta admit felt even creepier. Your attachment to material possessions prevents optimal community resource distribution. I pulled out my phone, dialed 911 right in front of him. He didn't even blink. You better think twice about this, he said, smiling like he was offering me a second chance at enlightenment. Once my mom explains our neighborhood enhancement initiative, you'll probably want to apologize for interfering. I thought I'd heard every excuse under the sun, but getting told I'd need to apologize for reporting a burglary, that was a first. While we waited for the cops, Brandon kept picking through my stuff methodically like he had a checklist. This goes to the Martinez family. They have 3 kids sharing one computer for homework. This camera, the Johnsons need it for their son's school project. He actually knew my neighbors, their families, even what their kids needed for school. That level of detail was just chilling. He wasn't some desperate kid grabbing loot. He was redistributing my life in real time, narrating the social benefits as he went. When Detective Williams finally arrived, I figured this circus would end. Brandon, though, just got bolder, asking Williams to call his mom, Christina Scott. She'll verify my community improvement assignment. And for the first time, Williams actually paused, wrote down the name, eyes narrowing. That name's flagged in our database, he said. and I swear the air in the room changed. This wasn't just a break-in anymore. The detective's face shifted from routine to alarmed, and Brandon, handcuffed, just kept talking, still calm, still convinced. Once Christina explains the therapeutic benefits of community resource sharing, you'll understand. Our programs helped dozens of families overcome materialistic attachment disorders. He seemed so certain, so brainwashed, that for a second even the cops hesitated. When the patrol car pulled away with Brandon in the back, still gesturing through the window like a TED Talk about forced generosity, one question burned in my mind. What kind of mother raises a kid who thinks theft is therapy? And how many of my neighbors had already bought into whatever mind game was warping this kid's sense of right and wrong? The answer knocked on my door the next morning, literally. Christina Scott, HOA president, showed up with a blindingly white smile and a clipboard looking like she was about to lead a PTA fundraiser, not defend her son's felony. There's been a misunderstanding about our community resource sharing program, she chirped, showing off a stack of documents so official looking you'd think she'd printed them at the courthouse. Each page was laminated, stamped, and formatted to match real legal paperwork. Ma'am, your son broke into my house and stole my laptop. That's not resource sharing, that's felony theft with PowerPoint. Her smile didn't budge, but her eyes got colder, and she explained, "That's individualistic thinking, Mr. Rogers. Evolved communities understand that resource sharing benefits everyone's psychological growth. Brandon was simply redistributing underutilized assets to families with greater need." The way she talked, clinical, polished, absolutely unfazed, was so rehearsed, I knew she'd delivered this pitch before. Probably in more than one zip code. Detective Williams, skeptical but professional, started scrutinizing the paperwork. Community service doesn't typically involve entering private homes without permission, he pointed out. But Christina just kept going, pulling out her phone calmly, reporting me for harassment and interfering with court-mandated community rehabilitation. She said it like she was the victim, not me. Her language was so twisted it made me dizzy, accusing me of resisting psychological healing and warning that our work in Colorado had been transformative. That one line landed heavy, like a threat. This wasn't her first rodeo, and whatever happened in Colorado wasn't just a line in her resume. It was a warning: play along, or get the therapy treatment. Williams caught the undertone, started making calls, and Christina's mask finally cracked just for a second before she doubled down with more therapeutic doublespeak. That night I started digging. It didn't take long to find out that Brandon had been arrested for B&E before charges dropped after something called community mediation. More digging, public records, police reports, HOA meeting minutes painted a picture of a neighborhood systematically stripped of its confidence, with Christina moving from house to house, gaslighting victims into thinking they were selfish for wanting their stuff back. I talked to Mrs. Clark, my elderly neighbor, who told me about the time her garden tools disappeared, how Christina visited 3 times each conversation, leaving her more guilty, more convinced she was the one who needed therapy for caring about property. Emma listened to all of this, her medical training kicking in. "That's systematic psychological grooming," she said, recognizing Christina's tactics instantly. "She isolates victims, makes them doubt their own perceptions, reframes theft as community healing, and positions herself as the authority." As I kept digging, I uncovered even more victims, all with eerily similar stories: missing property, community, mediation, guilt trips, spiritual growth talk, and at the center, Christina, orchestrating everything with creepy professional polish. Then I found a desperate online post warning Christina Scott just moved to your area. She destroyed our neighborhood in Colorado. The guy behind the post, David, answered my call and laid it all out. Christina spent years perfecting this psychological virus, moving state to state, destroying communities by convincing people theft was therapy, manipulation was healing, and anyone who resisted needed intervention. By the time federal agents contacted me, my story was just one in a long, ugly pattern spanning multiple states with financial damage in the tens of thousands and psychological damage you couldn't even quantify. I learned that Christina and Brandon were the tip of a traveling psychological predation network, moving into vulnerable neighborhoods, building trust, collecting intelligence, then weaponizing it through fake wellness, surveys, fake court papers, and relentless social pressure. Most chilling, she believed every word, convinced herself that systematic abuse was healing. Eventually, federal law enforcement closed in, using my case, my recordings, my community's nightmare as the final nail. Christina was arrested mid-speech, clipboard in hand, still protesting that she was saving us from ourselves. Brandon, shattered and lost, finally broke down and asked the question that haunted everyone. Were we really the bad guys this whole time? 6 months later, Christina's behind bars, sentenced for organized fraud and psychological manipulation, still convinced she's a misunderstood hero. Brandon's in counseling, slowly clawing his way out of a lifetime of brainwashing. Our neighborhood. We're healing awkwardly, painfully, piecing trust back together at town halls where people apologize for things they said and did under Christina's spell. Mrs. Clark, hands shaking, told the group, "She didn't just steal my tools, she made me grateful they were gone. She convinced me wanting them back meant I was selfish." That's the horror when a predator can make you thank them for hurting you. It'll take time, but we'll get there. So let me ask you, what would you do if your own community turned against you, manipulated by someone hiding behind therapy and healing? Ever had a neighbor like that? Drop a comment below. Share your craziest HOA or manipulation story. And let's talk about what justice, real justice, should look like. Justice.